Teachers. What was the worst thing a substitute teacher did while you were gone? Left my perfectly prepped and neat desk an absolute disaster. Did not follow the lesson plan and took my gel pens. Back when I was a teacher, I had a sub decide my plans weren't good enough for her and went rogue. She decided to show my students videos of animals giving birth on YouTube. I taught English. Rearranged my room. Not in a. Moved student A away from student B and put her by student C. Way. In a. Moved the giant rug over to the opposite corner of the room. And completely changed the layout of student desks. And rearrange a bookshelf. Way. I had a cool Chinese lucky cat that went missing after I had a sub. My students said the sub seemed really intrigued by it. Talked about it several times. And even moved it from the shelf where it sat and brought it over to my desk. It was gone when I returned the next day. There was a harpsichord in the front of the classroom used both for demonstration and performance. Not knowing what he was doing, the sub tried to tune 3 notes that had gone mildly out of tune while I was away. He managed to break the strings on all 3 notes and left a message inside reading, "Sorry about that." I had a sub give out my cell phone number to my high school students so they could call me and give me excuses as to why they weren't taking their test while I was gone. I was livid. I complained to the sub office. And that teacher never subbed for my building again. She let the kids run wild and do whatever they wanted. First graders. I was out because my dad died. Thank God my team realized what happened and all pulled together and cleaned the room, put it back together before I returned to work. When I was a substitute, I got a lot of requested jobs because the substitute pool was poor. One such example given to me was a substitute who would just go to sleep. I barely believed it. Once I was teaching full-time. I had a sub come in for a day. When I got back, my students told me that he told them to leave him alone. Sat down. And went to sleep. I believed it then. Didn't do anything to the kids, per se, but told the kids that the reason I was out was because my mom was having breast cancer surgery. I teach K-5 and I specifically didn't tell the kids because I didn't want them to worry. So, when I came back, I had a bunch of kids come up to me asking about my mom. Which was so sweet, but not something the kids should have had to worry about. He peed in my desk chair. Swear to God. He apparently peed in my chair and the students noticed it and mentioned it to him. He ignored them and just sat there anyway with a huge puddle of urine on the floor. The kids called security on him. I came in the next day and sat in the chair. It was wet, and about that time a security guard stuck her head in the door and said, "Don't sit there. That guy peed in your chair." I had left out, overnight, eggs that I was going to use in a science experiment the following day. I was out and thought nothing about it. I returned the following day and went looking for the eggs only to find them missing. Asked a student where they went and I was informed that the substitute took the class to the special education kitchen. Hard-boiled them and ate them. I went to talk to my AP and was informed that the sub had called in sick for her job for that day, due to food poisoning. Gave out snacks I bought with my own money that I kept for kids who stayed after to get tutoring. Threw out a broken electric pencil sharpener that kids broke in front of her. Which again, I bought with my own money and couldn't get replaced by the company because I had no product to send back. I still don't have a sharpener for my room. Let the kids go through my things in my cabinets and desk. Lost a bunch of stuff that way. I was a teacher's assistant while in college. The teacher and I took a week-long workshop and had a sub. The worst thing she did. Not letting the kids go potty. It was in kindergarten and she said all the kids going to bathroom were interrupting the class. One girl wet herself. School policy was if kids under a certain age had an accident, the nurse would give them a pull-up. Basically a diaper. To wear. The substitute proceeded to make fun of the girl for wear a diaper. Calling her baby and such. The little girl ended facing repercussions at home too. It was devastating to hear about. She was bought in to teach history. What did she teach? Geography. Like how? The worksheets I left were literally on Hitler's rise to power. Edit. I should have mentioned. She taught how earthquakes can cause tsunamis. Yes, it was interesting, but you had one job and it wasn't that. I taught middle school math and English in the 90s and the sub didn't know how to convert a decimal into a fraction and kept insisting that the students who did know how to do it were wrong. She also apparently didn't know how to pronounce 5 of our 20 vocabulary words and didn't know what half of them meant. Not a teacher. Of course. But when I was in 5th grade we had a sub show us the first Scream movie. I have no idea why or how that happened. But some people were not ready for that. I would occasionally give out starbursts to my 4th graders. Bitch ate all the pink ones. The sub passed out drunk at my desk. Kids wrecked the room. Kids stole all my stuff. The kids had the sense to take themselves to lunch and recess, so no one in the school realized anything was wrong until after the kids had left for the day. He yelled at one of the only girls in my high school engineering class saying girls don't belong in engineering. He also kicked his feet up on the desk and read the paper the entire day. He banged a yardstick on a desk to get everyone's attention, then pointed it at the whiteboards with the daily objectives, all without saying a word. He disappeared at lunch and came back smelling like weed. These are all reports I got from my students the next day. This guy was a retired teacher. 2. Not a teacher, but once we had a sub for German class in high school. Instead of following the lesson plan, she showed us a graphic documentary about the Holocaust, with part of it showing dead naked bodies being pushed by a bulldozer into a mass grave. At first, I just thought it was weird that our teacher didn't tell us about it beforehand, but then just assumed that it was just part of the class where we learned about German history and had to see the horrors of the Holocaust. I didn't find out until almost a week later that the sub completely ignored the lesson plan about grammar. Not me, but my sister. She was on maternity leave. Approximately 10 weeks. And the long-term sub she had didn't grade any of the work that the students turned in. The other teacher she worked with said he would watch The Simpsons on his laptop while not teaching. So she comes back from leave and has 10 weeks worth of papers, tests, and assignments to grade. Her department chair banned him from subbing for their department ever again. 2 things come to mind. 1. Tell the black children they need to speak more clearly because people think black people are hard to understand. 2. Just sit and play on the phone while class loses its mind. Came back to my art room with paint on the walls, chairs, and tabletops. None of my plans had been followed. My chocolate stash had clearly been eaten. And apparently she allowed the students to leave the room and wander the school. They were a class of 8th graders. I was furious. If my substitutes even showed up, they only occasionally followed the lesson plans I left. And I made sure to attach them to the online sign-up and leave them on my desk. It's like they looked at the lessons and said, "Nah." I vaguely remember a substitute teacher calling me racist for being 25% Japanese. It was 6th grade music class. Basically he said, "What is the most racist country?" And obviously no one answered. He said Japan. I said, "I am 25% Japanese." And he said, "Exactly. LMAO." He was obviously fired. He wasn't a real substitute either, if I recall correctly.